Okay, welcome back to Random Thoughts. This is episode 62, and we're going to immediately do a part 2 from last week and follow on with our nutrition. What was planned to be last week's nutrition talk?
Yeah, we went a little deeper, but I think
we got sidetracked, but it was good though.
I think it was good, and we got some nice feedback. People liked it, so that was cool. Always a bit of trepidation when you tackle nutrition,
especially
I think it was good.
So we should get back on track from what we were going to talk about last week and talk about pre. I think we should just break it down into pre, intra, and then post-workout nutrition.
Yeah,
because athletes, what should I eat before a game? What should I eat after a game? What should I eat after a workout and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of myths and there's a lot of over complication when it's actually a little simpler than a lot of people think.
Yeah. Let's start with pre. So if we're talking pre, I think we're talking around 2 hours, 2.5 hours prior to tip-off. Maybe
even 4, depending on the game time, depending on the athlete.
Yeah, so I guess between 2 and 4.
Yeah.
The most important thing is that you don't experiment on game day.
Yeah.
That you actually have.
I read a thing, I'm going to try it before the semi-finals.
Yeah.
It's a bad play.
So you do want to allow some time for trial and error, because there's nothing so individual, I think, as our tummies and as what works for us, what
metabolisms,
makes one person feel sluggish and so forth. So it's very important at the outset that we say, we'll say some stuff, but you've got to test and see what works for you.
Yeah.
Having said that, let's talk about the main priority.
Yeah. The goal of it, and then how to do it. Yeah.
So to me, the goal of your pre-game nutrition is to make sure that you not just start the game and perform well, but that in the last few minutes of the fourth quarter or the second half,
or the last quarter, or the last 100 meters, whatever it is,
the bit that really counts in the sport, that you still have tanks of glycogen that are adequately full, that you can perform your sport.
Yeah.
And I think that is really, really important. So it's not about having a quick sugar thing and then halfway through the game you're back down. Have you got a slow release of energy that will see you through the game.
Yeah. And so whether you're a marathon runner, whether you're a soccer player, 400 meter runner, footballer, team sport athlete, doesn't matter. It's all about that fourth quarter, that last effort.
And even in shorter sports, that's still like, can I tell my do you remember my jam sandwich story?
Tell you jam.
No, sorry, honey sandwich.
Vaguely, I remember it vaguely.
So we had an athlete who I won't name, Olympic level 400 meter runner.
Legit.
And this is back at the old gym I used to work at, Body World.
Before my day.
Before your day. And he was just a stud athlete, amazing, smart dude, smart guy, very committed. And he'd complained about the fact that he was having trouble with his kick late in the race. So late in the 400, he just felt like he didn't have much in the tank.
Legs locked up, got all sloppy.
Just didn't feel like he had that oomph, and he should have, because he was very strong and good and fit and so forth. And one of the other trainers there, and I happened to overhear it, he asked him, so tell me about your pre-race nutrition. It's like, 2 hours out from the race, I have a honey sandwich, because that's really good for my energy.
White bread,
honey sandwich. So we were talking last week about the glycemic index,
and
the idea that when you put something in your tummy and how quickly that is burned up and converted to blood sugar.
How quickly the acid can get at it and the stomach can absorb it, basically, is the nutshell of glycemic index.
And honey in white bread, it's just like...
It's like 1,000 on a 100-point scale. It's like...
and then straight back down.
So I'm pretty sure they use white potato. That's the baseline. That is 100, I'm pretty sure. White bread is like a 99.
I thought it was glucose. I thought glucose was the 100.
I'll find a reference to GI.
Okay.
But I know white bread's around 70.
Yeah.
And so I know honey's like 99.99. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So we're talking about instant, it's in your bloodstream.
And so what he actually needed was to have a proper meal 3 hours before, with some chicken and some
rice and maybe
some veggies,
maybe a little bit of veggies.
A little bit of veggies. Stuff that's actually going to have a sustained release of energy with a mixture of protein and carbs, and not such simple carbs.
Yep.
So the complexity of the meal needs to be just right. If the meal is too complex, if it's too much fiber,
if it's too much fat and fiber,
wrong. But if it's just sugar, also wrong. And it's interesting, and he changed that, and his performance then improved.
Because 2 hours out, he's got an hour of nervous energy, and then an hour of excessive warm up because he's fired up and he's got to do something. He gets to the game, the race, and he's burnt and he's spent. There's just literally nothing in the tank.
And so probably the first 200 meters, you're all on adrenaline.
Yeah, adrenaline and lactate and ATP.
And then it's like,
and the body goes, all right, time to get the glycogen And it's like, where's the glycogen?
No one filled up the tank.
Exactly.
So you want food that is going to fill up the tank enough that you have the tanks that last until the competition is over. Yep. And that will vary massively according to different sports.
Yep. So marathon, you want to be filling your tank for days beforehand. So glycogen loading, preloading, carb loading. Sorry, went blank there. Carb loading is a thing and it works. Yep. But for say one game of basketball, a 400-meter race, not really relevant.
And some people will argue that for now they're arguing for marathons it should be more fat adapted, and that's an area. It's a contentious area.
Yeah, fat adaptation is interesting.
And it may well be that that's the case. But it's certainly not proven for anaerobic sports because anaerobic glycolysis. And so I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think what we know, we're confident at the moment that the carb loading does help.
They often talk about train low, play high, or train low, race high.
Yeah.
So you train low carb in a fat adapted state to increase your mitochondrial density, increase your ability to beta oxidate fats. But then when it comes to the actual race, then you oversaturate your muscles with glycogen, so you can do both.
It's almost like glycogen doping, isn't it?
Yeah, in a sense, it's like you're hacking your body's the metabolic pathways to become more fat efficient.
Yeah. But let's take a sport that we know well, like basketball.
Basketball, so this will apply to netball and soccer, and not quite footy. Footy's a little longer.
Yeah.
So footy, you have to add a bit to these rules. But yeah.
So you want, a perfect pre-game meal might be spaghetti bolognese. And a milkshake for some people. It will have a bit in it.
This is a few hours before. This is the 3 or 4 hours before.
Yeah. All sorts of options as long as they've got some form of meat, a little bit of fat,
meat or
and
a protein form for the vegetarians of us.
Protein. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. I have not adapted to your carnivore anymore.
But yeah, so you want a little bit of protein, a tiny bit of fat and fiber, nothing crazy, and then a bunch of complex carbs. So whether it be oats, whole grain things are usually better than just sort of white. Yeah. They tend to be a little slower digesting. But by having the protein in there as well and the fiber, you slow down the digestion of any carbs anyway. So putting peanut butter on your white bread, for example, slows down its glycemic index no matter what. Yeah.
So that's a pre-game. I actually think it's reasonably straightforward. I wrote an article about that a long time ago.
That will be linked in the show notes.
Yeah, great. And that's got a couple of recipes from WNBL players of what they would have.
Yeah, there's protein pancakes, I think, in there.
Yeah,
that's good.
And so that's your pre-game.
Can I tell one more anecdote? We have an athlete who will also not be named, current athlete, who is pretty superstitious.
Yeah.
She's a little bit wound up about things. Left shoe goes on first. You got to double knot the laces. You got to have the socks up and then rolled back over. All this sort of stuff. Her pre-game meal was, so she showed me her food diary and showed me her pre-game meal was a bag of salt and vinegar chips. And I've gone, what's going on here? And she's gone, you can't change that. Everything else can be fixed except that. Don't touch that. All right. And I think there's a can of Coke in there as well. And so I just left it. And then I think it was last week or something. She played a really good game. She said, I played really well. I replaced, and we've been talking about milk. I was talking about milkshakes being better than Slurpees and Plushies and stuff like that for because they had more protein and fats in them, so it's slower GI. And I was talking about. She said, so I replaced my can of Coke with a Big M to go with my bag of salt and vinegar chips.
In terms of like wine matching with food, I think that's a good match.
And she had a chicken baguette as well. And she said it was the best game I've played ever. I said, don't change a thing. You've got it. You've won. And so this is like an hour before the game. She's having a chocolate Big M for a basketball. This is an anaerobic sport. So if that suits your tummy, then that's anything in the right direction is good.
And the moral of the story is like what she was doing was shockingly bad. Yeah. And so almost anything is going to be better than that.
Seriously, like adding a block of cheese
that would have
been a win.
A net improvement.
And so it's good to be superstitious. And I remember when I was younger, I used to prefer to play slightly hungry. But that's not a great move long term because you might feel better for that first half, but it's going to cost you in the second half or the later stages of your competition. Yeah. So you want to sort of slowly but surely break that superstitious thing.
And I think you want to experiment. You want to
not during games though. No, experiment with trainings.
With trainings and just get a feel for I ate this and then I played really well. Yeah. So because the ideal state is where the tummy is done digesting the food, and you nail it. If you've nailed it where it's out of your digestive system, it's in the muscles, but you haven't started depleting them. So you haven't
started ticking it over yet.
Yeah, you just actually managing to. You arrive at tip off or kick off or whatever with your tanks at like bang on 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
And so whatever you have to do to create. Whereas if you arrive and you haven't digested it all, you're going to get a sore tummy.
It's going to be heavy and it's going to slow you down. It's going to feel not very nice.
So that's the immediate pre-game. During the game,
intra-game, intra-workout.
I think people tend to probably overhave. Like an interesting example is of another professional athlete who would live low carb, but then play really high amounts of Gatorade.
Like Gatorade and lollies and jelly beans.
Like
and
just
stuff,
pure sugar during the game. And I don't think that's necessarily a very good idea either.
No.
Because your body... Sorry, you go.
Yeah, so physiologically, when you have sugar and I've received a text recently from an athlete who was asking about this theory because they talk about it in PE. If you have too much sugar during game, you actually can't physiologically start replacing glycogen when your body's using it. The adrenaline levels are too high. It's going to be blocking your insulin, your GLUT4's ability to transport that glucose in. It can't really spare glycogen per se. You can drip feed a little bit of blood glucose in via your sugar, but we're talking like little cherry on top percentage wise. We're not talking about big bulk. It really, you've got to have those carbs in the muscles before you start. So anyone who gets the game and goes, I'm feeling really flat, have a Gatorade, it's really placebo. Yeah. It's a big factor.
And the other thing is that you are at a significant risk of having an overreaction from your insulin to regulate that.
Yeah, because insulin's kind of the opposite of your adrenaline testosterone hormones. So it's going to have you in this calm, kind of placid, chilled out state from like that sugar coma you're going to get.
Yeah. And so, it's unideal. So you want to make sure that having a little bit of sugars as you're training along is fine. A half and half works really well. Like having
Gatorades are too strong. Gatorade, Powerade, Staminade, they're all too strong.
Half strength Gatorade. You know, some athletes will drink a bit of each. Some will have one diluted one, whatever.
And that's a taste. That's not a tasting thing. But having just Gatorade or just Powerade, it's too strong, too sugary. Often even too salty as well. Like because they have the electrolytes in there, it's often got a bit too much of that.
For some, depending on this. Again, it's very individual because some people sweat rates vary amazingly.
I'm a world class sweater.
You're an Olympic level sweater.
It's almost the middle of winter. And last night I did bike and I was just dripping with sweat everywhere.
And I'm not much of a sweater at all, so we have different requirements. And I would also say, in terms of the lollies, I think a little bit's okay.
Couple?
A couple. Just even if it is a placebo and you just feel like you've had a bit of a shot of energy, that's cool. But you don't want to be ODing. What isn't okay, I think, is having like a Mars bar during the game, like having high fat stuff. I think a little bit maybe helpful, is definitely harmless in terms of your sugary lollies.
We're talking about like 3 or 4 snakes over the course of a game.
But your fatty lollies, I think it's crazy talk doing that during a game.
Yeah, that's insanity. I think one big problem athletes make is they over-rely on Gatorades and Powerades and lollies for workouts as well. Like during a game, you have to be on point the whole time. But I think in training I have to have Gatorade when I'm in the gym. I have to have Gatorade when I'm
it's ridiculous
shooting hoops. Every time I'm like even if you were sweating, your body just becomes so reliant on having these sugars there all the time.
Yeah,
and you're constantly sort of battling against your insulin.
How much Gatorade do you have when you lift or do cardio?
I haven't had a Gatorade in probably 3 years.
Me neither. Like I lift and I drink water.
And I'll eat before I work out, or I'll train fasted deliberately. It's a topic for another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't need it for workouts.
When I was younger, I used to think I needed it. And then when you didn't have it, like, I feel weak. I haven't had my Gatorade. Please, you know.
Yeah, that's a bit of a placebo. If your long-term nutrition is on point, you don't need Gatorades, even for games. You shouldn't really need it for games. It's more of that the taste as well. It's sometimes nice to get the lactic taste out of your mouth for anaerobic sports. But really, physiologically, it's not doing much in game.
And you know what's been interesting is, this is an old timers. Get out your back in my day. I'm old enough to have existed in a pre-Gatorade world.
There was a pre-Gatorade world?
Yeah.
That must have been pre-Michael Jordan as well, because he kind of... He was the first real ambassador.
Yeah, so I remember when Gatorade first came out, and I would have been maybe 14, 15 years old.
They invented it at the University of Florida.
Yeah.
And at first it tasted like piss.
Florida Gators.
The Gators, so the Gatorade. The first concoction they developed scientifically was huge on sodium, really low on sugar, or medium sugar, and it tasted like urine, apparently. It was just like the saltiest.
Well, when it came out, there was this big marketing push, and I remember it was so... And I'd previously just got by with drinking water at sports.
As said everyone for millennia.
And then it was Gatorade, and there were these big kind of relatively fat glass bottles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can vividly remember the first time I tasted it because it was just like cordial on crack.
Yeah. Because it's cordial, but science.
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. Because the only thing before that was like a thing called Staminade.
Yeah, which is still around. Yeah. They have magnesium in it, like Staminade.
But anyway, and there was this big thing on hydration, and it became like this huge thing. And all of a sudden, it was you had to like you couldn't train for more than 6 minutes without hydrating because it was all these stats on like
you lose this many millions, this much performance percentage.
We've been playing sport for upwards of 8 minutes without a drink.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. And then it just became this thing, and you see coaches drink plays like drink break. It's like it was a real shift, and it was very Gatorade driven. And look, partly it was also just science. Like dehydration is an issue,
and sodium does help with the transport of water. But what's interesting is your hydration state is actually as much a chronic thing as it is an acute thing.
Yeah.
So you build up your body's ability. So if you go from drinking half a glass of water a day, so you're drinking 500 mils a day, and all of a sudden you go, that's it, I'm changing today, and you start drinking 4 liters, you'll be going to the bathroom every 10 minutes. But if you continue that on for a couple of weeks, your body will start storing and holding more water. In the same way it learns how to store more protein, the same way it learns to store more carbs, it learns to store and hold on to water.
That is such good advice, because I used to do a thing where I'd be like, because 8 glasses of water a day, and I'm gonna, this is like step one of nailing all of my nutrition.
Gonna win life,
and it's all starting with water. Yeah. And I would go right, and because I'm a little OCD, sometimes I'd probably over drink the water. And then I'd be going to the toilet like 18 times. I'm like, how do people do this? I can't get anything done. This is ridiculous.
Sit down, have a glass of water, bathroom.
Yeah, it was terrible. And then it wasn't until I realised that actually you've got to sneak up that intake over a period of weeks.
Or be prepared to have a little bit of a lag in that first time where there's going to be a bit of bathroom breaks for a couple of days while your body gets used to it. But it adapts pretty quickly.
I didn't like it at all.
Yeah,
it's really annoying.
But stick with it, athletes, because the payoff is this all of a sudden this new energy, enthusiasm, fitness, and performance level that you didn't even know you had. And and the problem is it just happens, and you're like, oh, I'm playing amazingly, and you won't even remember because you'll start the water
well
2 weeks before.
And you're good. On that, the hydration thing, we lose a vast amount of water via respiration overnight. So just the moisture in the air, when we exhale, we lose a significant amount. It's like some ridiculous number, like 400 mil of fluid across 8 hours just in each time. So, where you're really dry and thirsty when you first wake up.
And you're lighter as well.
Yeah.
That's why you measure yourself on the scales in the morning.
When you've done a wee and you're lighter. Just making sure, just that first, like I always have a big cup of water next to the bed, and it's just the first thing I step out of bed, bang, get that one down, done.
For me, it's straight to the fridge, cold water.
Fridge?
Two for sure. Cold water just wakes me up. I do cold showers as well. I'm a bit weird like that.
Don't cup check. Chinese medicine would suggest that you should be having stuff that's room temperature as it goes into your system, so that it's kind of assimilating. Yeah, I'm all at room temperature. I don't want it straight out of the tap. But I'm also a warm shower weirdo. So.
So that kind of sums up.
Let's talk about post in another time, I reckon, because we've gone way over time.
Okay, so let's summarize pre and during.
Yeah.
So pre is as much about your chronic work, your chronic nutrition and your chronic hydration as it is about the actual meal. So if you're eating well over the course of the week, then that pre-game is just a little top-up.
Yeah.
For most sports. Footy, I think, is an exception because it's quite a long game. You probably want to have a big carby meal the night before and then the morning of.
Yep.
Soccer, anything soccer and below, which is a 90-minute game with no stoppage time. Football, soccer, netball, basketball, tennis, depending on how many sets you're playing, but as a rule. Tournaments, you want to be carb loading for that as well, I reckon. So get carbs in the night before. But then your pre-game meal is all about palatability.
Yep.
And like you said before, hitting the start gun, the tip off, the kick off. The
tanks right where you want them.
And then intra.
And then intra is not going crazy with the sugars, not going crazy with the fat, maintaining good hydration.
No fat intra. No fat, because that's a great way to upset your tummy, make you feel like you want to spew.
Yeah, it's a great way.
Learned the hard way.
I reckon I'm going to do a backflip. I think we've got time to do it, because I don't feel like post-game is an entire topic. I reckon let's just do a quick 4-minute.
Mid.
And if we're not happy with it, we'll come back and go deeper.
You'll only know by where the episode finishes here, or we keep going. All right, post.
Okay, so post. So I like to explain post in a couple of critical things. One is that in the hour post game or training, you're absorbing, depending on which stats you follow, approximately, you're absorbing the nutrients at about triple the rate.
I've read anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 times. Yeah.
So it's like you're a race car, and that hour afterwards you can refill.
You've got like three nozzle holes for
or the nozzles
fuel.
big or whatever it is. You can get that right back into your system. So that's really important to understand the opportunities there to refuel.
And that's predominantly due to GLUT4.
Yeah,
GLUT4 is a transport that lives in your muscles and your liver, and it's basically during and after work exercise, it basically goes, feed me, and just runs to the surface of the cell and just like, where's the glucose?
Very receptive.
Give me the glucose and the amino acids too.
And so the priority is immediately post game. It's like bizarro world. So normal world, you want slow release, low glycemic index,
balanced meals
that gives you a nice, slow, steady burn of sugar. Because you want that
of carbs,
but a burn of
glucose.
Immediately post game, you actually want the stuff that's really easy to break down, that can be assimilated as rapidly as is humanly possible,
and can get through your stomach and your digestive system into the muscles like that.
So it's opposite rules. So simple sugars, not too much fiber,
fast digesting proteins like whey
are really good. So the perfect thing.
Liquids are also better than meals because liquids absorb faster.
So the absolute perfect to me was, and this is what we did with the Sapphires, and what we recommend for all the state teams and with various teams we've worked with, is immediately post-game you have a Gator shake. So it is a Gatorade with a big spoonful or a scoop,
30-gram scoop of whey protein. Isolate or concentrate. People are like, well, what's better? Just as long as it's whey. It can't be casein. Casein is slow digesting, but concentrate or isolate, they're both great.
So let's say you've got an 80-kilo athlete. So you have a Gator shake, which has 60 grams of carbohydrates in it, with the 30 grams of protein.
So a 30-gram scoop ends up with about 27 grams.
You're now still 20, because you want to get 1 gram per kilogram of body weight approximately of simple carbs.
Of sugars, yep.
And so you're now still 20 grams short. So you then make that up by having 6 lolly snakes.
Or whatever the number is.
Whatever. I actually made a spreadsheet that calculated from like athletes, grams required, and then I had an equation that worked out how many snakes that was.
So divide the grams by grams per snake.
Yeah, so the team manager had like, this player must get 6 snakes, this player must get 3. Probably you could have had 4 and it'd be okay. But anyway, so immediately after you have that, it's basically as soon as you finish playing.
And so that's the anabolic window, they call it in lifting world. A lot of people go, oh, it's a myth, it doesn't exist. It does exist, it's a thing. People overplay it and say, oh, if you miss your 30, and they make jokes, if you miss your 30-hour window, your workout was a waste of time. No, it wasn't a waste of time. But if you want to if you're an athlete who's doing 8 to 10 sessions a week and you're performing a high level, making state teams, national teams, trying to compete the next day, you want to maximize your physiology and get the best result possible.
Because the way I talk about it in tournament terms is, and with the WNBL team is, we'll finish the game on a Friday night and we'll have another game on the Sunday, and I'll be like, right, it's 33 hours till our next game.
Yeah.
And so it's the clock starts. Geelong Footy Club, they have a big clock in their gym, and as soon as the game finishes, like this weekend, bang, there's this big clock that starts days, hours, minutes, seconds till the next game, and so the whole week they're seeing that countdown, which is kind of cool.
NBA, they play 4 games a week in some weeks. EPL, they play 2 to 3 games a week. Like these elite athletes are doing a lot of stuff. So
you want to make sure that you are getting that immediately in. Then around an hour later, I think it's time for real food. In my experience, if you try and rush real food into people who've just played intense sport quicker than an hour, people feel a bit queasy.
Yeah.
You can maybe do it at half an hour for some people, but I think around 45 to 60 minutes post-game is the optimum time. And what I want people getting into them are simple foods that will be easily palatable and easily absorbed. I think something with a bit of fat's quite good, because fat's actually pretty easy on your system. I've come around to fat a lot.
Yeah.
And I think stuff that's already pre-digested in some sense. So spaghetti bolognese, although you want to have a pre and post, you want to have something. Sushi.
Sushi's great. Pizza's great.
San Xiao Bao, the Vietnamese.
Oh yeah.
The minced chicken types, anything minced where it's already been broken it down for you a little bit, I think is really good. But basically anything with a good amount of protein, some fat, fair bit of carbs.
I still watch my mates play basketball every now and again and see the spreads, and there's usually some pizza, like some little sandwiches, a little bit of muffins, fruit, stuff like that. Basically kind of like lunchtime school foods are all pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, but probably where people, I think, go a little bit wrong is they underdose their protein.
Oh, for sure. That's the number one cardinal sin of post-workout or post-game is underdosing your protein.
Yeah, and then they'll overdose the fruit salad is what I see most often. It's like you actually already covered that with the 3 Gatorades you had anyway.
Yeah, you threw.
Like, you've ticked that box.
Maybe a banana, but then get something proper in there.
Yeah. So I think that's post-game. It's Bizarro World rules. You want
especially
foods
that first hour
rapidly absorbed, and then thereafter you want to have foods that are nutritious, reasonably calorie dense, and probably have a little more protein and a little more fat than you think you should.
Yeah.
For some people, myself included, I don't like immediately after sport. I don't like having fatty foods. I feel a bit like spewy about them.
Yeah.
So you don't have fatty foods. So don't force yourself to have fatty foods if you don't like it.
There's a bit of personal preference in there as well. Yeah.
Okay. Nutrition covered.
I think we got it in.
Done.
It's definitely not covered. If there is something about nutrition that you're curious on, give us a yell, give us a heads up, and we'll.
Can we emphasize? We did a great job in the first episode. We are not nutritionists. This is general.
We are not nutritionists. We're not doctors. We don't pretend to play it on the internet.
Precision nutrition is a great source of brilliant information.
This stuff's awesome.
Qualified nutritionists are also excellent. We're just
much better than us.
We're just talking about this stuff.
Yep. People seem to be curious, so
yeah, cool.
There it is.
There it is.